You've probably heard of Lake Titicaca.
But if you're anything like me, then the thing you know about this place is the name. Yes, it's funny, but there is so much more interesting about this place. For example, it's the highest navigatable lake in the world, with over 3.8 kilometers of elevation, which is like 12,500 feet. But for me, this is not even the most interesting part about this place. As it turns out, there's a group of indigenous Peruvians living in here for over 500 years on man-made islands. And those islands are made out of grass. And in this video, we're gonna have a closer look at Uros people and their way of life. But at first, let's go back to the beginning. We have just made it to a small port on the shores of Lake Titicaca, and there's supposed to be a guy called Nicanor to come here and pick us up. Muchas gracias. Hola. Hola, hola. A little gas stop. Never seen a gas station like this before. I guess we've made it. Alrighty, we have made it to a place that's gonna be our home for the next 2 days. And first things first, I guess let's talk a little bit more about the island we're standing on at the moment. As you probably already realized, we're currently on Lake Titicaca, and in here there's around 145 islands, and they're all made out of this here. This plant is called totora reed, or like lake grass or reeds, or however you want to call it. And there's literally over 1,000 people living on those islands. It's quite a weird feeling when the whole island is going up and down when a boat passes you. It kind of makes you seasick a little bit. The islands itself are up to 2 meters thick, so there's almost 2 meters of this lake grass laid upon itself. And then to keep the islands in their place, wooden spikes like this are used and rammed into the bottom of the lake to keep the islands where they're supposed to be, because otherwise you're gonna go to sleep and wake up in Bolivia. So far it sounds pretty awesome, right? Having this trampoline-like island on the middle of the lake, just floating around. But okay, let's talk about the catch. So the islands are made out of reeds. They're made out of lake grass, and this means that the bottom side of the island that's in the water is constantly rotting. And if you don't take care of your island for long enough, it will literally sink to the bottom of the lake. Just look at those boats, 2 of them carrying the lake grass to the islands. So around every 20 to 30 days, the locals have to lay another layer of totora reeds to keep the islands afloat. So they're constantly building up their islands, and this is a lot of work. Of course, there are also benefits to living on an island. For example, just behind me in here, there's a hole in the island, and it's like a little pond. And how this one here is used is as a trout nursery. So when they get fresh trout, they put them in here, in those nets. And the family always has fresh trout to take from their own pond. So that is pretty freaking awesome. So the islands are cool and there's definitely benefits on living here. But there's also so many cons. First of all, you constantly have to rebuild your own island. Secondly, you can't have agriculture, you can't have animals. So why would the Uros people want to live here when there's so much room over there on the mainland? The answer to this question lays far back in the history. The Uros have always been the kind of people who, to put it simply, prefer peace to war. And when the neighboring kingdoms and empires like Incas and others started expanding, then the only way for them to avoid conflict was to escape the mainland. And so those islands came to be. They built those islands to escape conflict and live peacefully in their own unique ways. And although nobody knows it for sure, but by now the locals have been living here in the middle of this lake at least for 500 years. Oh, and in those 500 years that people have been living on those islands, they have made sure to learn exactly how to use the one thing that they have in abundance. And yes, the one thing is lake grass. Not only their islands are made out of it, but also their houses. As well as their boats. To pretty much everything else, from trash bins to ornaments, to handcrafts, to pieces of clothing, their hats. And probably the most surprising thing to me is that they even eat totora, the root part that's in the water of this plant is full of nutrition. So only the white part on the end of the reed is edible, and I think we're going to be served a little bit.
Oh, it's so soft. It's very soft. Nice. Like a spongy thing.
Yeah, a little bit like cucumber, maybe a little bit like a tasteless pumpkin or a squash.
Yeah, like a cucumber.
Literally over there is a boat factory, and as it turns out they're using their plastic bottles to keep the boats afloat. It's so cool and so environmentally sustainable as well, just using their own trash to keep their boats and structures afloat. That is so cool. So talk about adapting to your environment. It is crazy how innovative the local people have been in this part of the world. Oh my gosh, the sunsets here on Uros Islands, they're really so beautiful. There's enough room for you to see and the whole sky just colored. My friends, I don't know if you know that, but up high in the mountains, temperatures at night get pretty cold. And to counter that, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blankets. How does it feel under 7 blankets?
It's pretty nice and warm.
What really warms my heart is that the innovative way of Uros people definitely does not end with the lake grass. They have so well adapted to new technologies, for example solar panels. Since it's super hard to bring cables in here, almost all of them have their own panels, batteries, and that's how they get their power. And when it comes to work and income, then the main source of income for this indigenous group is definitely tourism. They have kept their old ways, and while showing it to people who come in the area, they make their living, and it's absolutely wonderful. They're so welcoming, and they really like tourists in here. Oh, and by the way, from the money that locals make from tourists, they have built themselves schools. This is the school behind you. They have built themselves churches, so they've built a good structure to keep the community healthy and prospering. So that's absolutely wonderful in my mind. Our room is just getting checked, that we cleaned everything up, that we didn't leave anything behind. ¿Es todo bien? Sí, todo bien, Mateo. Sí. It's full service on the island. I'm just packing up my things and Mateo is even helping me pack. Sí, puedes cerrar. Ah. Uy. ¿Tú quieres? Uy. No. Ta-da! Bye-bye! Now that the 2 days we had at the lake are coming to an end, I must say that the feeling I have inside of me is just warm. It's joyful. It is such a pleasure seeing a small indigenous group of people prosper like this. They are welcoming, they are peaceful, they are innovative, and I think all of us have something to learn from them. Learn how to adapt to the nature we're living in. Learn how to coexist together with the animals, with the plants that surround us. And learn how peaceful and friendly ways can bring us success. Because nowadays, those islands here are one of the top tourist attraction in the whole of Peru. And this is simply because of the warm and welcoming ways of the Uros people. So now it's time for us to leave. And my friends, I will see you again next Thursday with some more adventures. Take care. Bye. Oh, and my friends, if you actually want to have a similar adventure here on Uros Islands as we did, I'm gonna leave Nicanor's contact or his booking page down in the description below, because it's honestly not expensive at all, and it's a wonderful little place to spend a few days.